Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome back to the Spring First Look series, where I delve out my personal rankings as we get more embroiled in spring ball, while also providing that 50,000 foot perspective in terms of, what to look for in each of these individual teams, plus give my record prediction as we enter the 2026 campaign. What I feel would be my record prediction as we get into spring ball. So, with that being said, we are doing this for all 138 teams, which means you're going to see individual videos for all 138 programs. So, it's a big undertaking, it's a big project of mine, and I'm really excited to bring it forward to you guys. And so, with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoy this, and if you do, make sure you do a couple of things for me. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you do have to be brand new, because a lot of work that goes into it. So I'd really appreciate if you showed some love for this series and the work that's done, especially behind the scenes, in order to make this happen. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get things started here with the Ball State Cardinals, who will be coming in as our next team that we're going to reveal from our spring rankings that I personally have. They come in as my 131st team in college football, at least entering the 2026 spring part of the offseason. This is going to also be the second team from the MAC that I am going to reveal at this time. We obviously revealed UMass, who not only is last in the conference of the Midwest, but UMass was also our very bottom of the FBS as well at 138. Ball State not too terribly much better as the 131st team, as Mike Yurmovich, he's entering his second year, and he has Ball State as a competitive team in year number one, 4-8. Was a team that played hard, even though the majority of the time, even in conference play, they looked like the second best team on the field from a pure talent perspective. But with the way that they executed and the way that they played hard, in spite of that, Ball State, they had a decent first year under his coaching staff at 4-8, and now you're trying to make that next step and try to be hopeful of making it to a bowl game. The problem is when you're looking at what Ball State brought in terms of notable additions and notable losses. Ball State was one of those programs where the additions that they had were primarily players that are unproven guys, that are either moving down from the power conference ranks and didn't really play, or it's guys that they brought in from the FCS or from other G5 schools that didn't necessarily dominate or even stand out at their previous spots. So that's really what you're looking at. No one really of note, actually, in terms of guys that were productive at their last spot joining this roster. And the high school recruiting class also leaves a little bit more to be desired as well. But you do, however, lose a couple of guys that were going to be starters for you, at least for this upcoming season, if they were still going to be around. Lucas, for example, was an interior offensive lineman who now has traveled the continental United States to play for Sean Lewis over at San Diego State. That was someone that he was going to absolutely start at Ball State this fall if he was still there. And then they also lose Cameron Anthony in the transfer portal as well. He ends up transferring to Rutgers. And again, that was somebody that was going to start for you at that tight end position and be one of those weapons that you had on the offensive side of the football. So essentially, they didn't really add anything of note here. So could be looking at a team that might be taking a little bit of a step back, but a little bit more benefit of the doubt compared to another MAC team that revealed, like a UMass, for example, because it was a rough looking situation when Mike Yurmovich took over initially, but at the same time was still able to get that 4-8 record. Can they accomplish that again in year number two, or even take that step forward Well, we'll just have to wait and see. And I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the record prediction, get the records graphic pulled up. So Ball State, not only do we have them in the bottom eight, but when it comes in terms of looking at programs holistically, i.e., what a program has been in the last 5 years, that's what I consider my program rankings. Even then, while Ball State is a little bit better from a holistic program standpoint, you're still looking at Ball State as a bottom 15 program in the country. So a little bit more benefit of a doubt compared to where their team stands, but not significantly more. But what that does lend to, and it's a decent schedule in spite of the fact that they only have 5 home games. So the majority of their games are going to be on the road, which was a problem because Ball State weren't necessarily road warriors last season. However, again, in spite of that, there's only a few games where you're looking at, even though they are starting out to me as a bottom 10 team in the country, there's not a lot of games on there that you look and say, oh, there is either no shot that they win this game, or you look at and you're extremely worried, right? So Ohio State on the road and Northwestern on the road, the two Big Ten teams that Ball State is going to play. Let's just get it out of the way. And I don't think it really needs much discussion here. They they're not going to win those games. I highly doubt that they win those games. Both cases, the model at this time would have Ball State as 30 plus point underdogs in both of these games. Ohio State in particular, looking at Ball State being a 46 and a half point underdog. It so no shot that they win those games respectfully. But then the only other couple of games that you're looking at and you're saying they probably don't win that, Liberty on the road. Liberty is a pretty solid home environment that you got to go play in. And even though Liberty had a down year last year, that's still a decent football team that's expected to take a field for the Flames in 2026. So I do think that's a safe win for the Liberty Flames. And then Ohio on the road as well. Ohio being one of the best programs in this conference. And even though Ohio is on their third coach in the last 3 years, the way that they still finish the season out in spite of those distractions, Ohio is still going to be a problem that the MAC as a whole is going to have to deal with. Other than that, though, it does feel that if there is a team that's going to be a major surprise in 2026, I would pen Ball State being that potential team if everything comes together that they could finish with a 7-5 and 8-4 record. They're going bowling and they do take that next step forward. So even though it's a bottom 10 team, in my personal opinion, I still think that there's quite a bit to you look at the rest of the schedule and you still have a shot to go bowling and to have improvement. Now, I do think that there's a lot of close games that I think they're going to lose. Like Kent State is an improved team, for example. Toledo is still a solid football program, even with Mike Jacobs taking over from Mercer. Bowling Green on the road, what we see from Eddie George in year number two. I think Bowling Green has some pieces. Sacramento State under Alonzo Carter. Alonzo Carter, he's going to be a first time head coach, but yeah, he is taking over a time as a fork in the road. UMass, we talked about them already, one of the worst teams in the country. Buffalo had a disappointing year. What does that look like under Pete Lambeau? And then Central Michigan under Matt Drinkle entering his second year as well. You get them at home to end the season. So, candidly, I do think most of these toss-up games, and you can see it from their record of the 2-10, I would lean towards picking other teams, but it wouldn't surprise me at all at the same time, though, if they do end up going out there and they win some of these close games, they get some luck on their side, and all of a sudden maybe you're going into November because you're looking at Ball State probably being 1-3 in conference play, even in outside of the MAC. in the even in the best case scenario. So if that pulls out, you're talking about Ball State, in spite of being in the bottom because of how the schedule works out. If the best case scenario happens, 7-1 in action, and you're talking about playing in a conference championship game, we're not really saying that about any of these other bottom dwellers. So Ball State does have that opportunity, but I don't know if they have what it takes to seize it. But if they do surprise, if they do, get the 7-8 wins, I would be surprised, but it wouldn't be fully unexpected if that makes sense. So I guess it just depends on what kind of coaching job does Mike Yurovich does. And by the way, if Ball State does finish 8-4, then I this that man needs to be coach of the year because that would be an incredible coaching job for him. And it's in there. I just don't know if he's going to be able to press all the right buttons, because you're asking a lot. But it's certainly there. And so even though Ball State is in my bottom 10 and I have their program as a bottom 15, 20 program in the country, there's still, you're looking at the schedule, you're optimistic about the schedule. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think on this. If you're as high on Ball State as I am, even though I do have them as a 2-10 football team, do you see the vision in terms of the ceiling, or am I completely crazy? Have I completely lost my mind? I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this down in the comments below. But in the meantime, we'll put a bookmark on that for now as we get ready to keep rolling through our spring deep dive series. Really appreciate you guys sitting down and talking some Ball State Cardinal football with me, as well as talking about the other 137 FBS programs that make up the Football Bowl subdivision. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button as well as hit subscribe if you do happen to be brand new. This is Jake from College Football Red Zone signing off. Hope you guys are all out there having a good one. Good night, everybody.